Oh, hello, hello. And I think I'm here live. As always, let's double check. There's always a delay. Yes, am I live? Let's see. Oh, it looks like I am live. I have viewers there. I think we're good. Yes, let me double check. Yes. Let's see. Oh, beautiful. Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. It is great to see you all. Hello and happy Tuesday. And we're in February already. Can you believe it? National Embroidery Month. So how perfect that I am back here live to share with you some little tips and tricks for our embroidery, no matter which Janome embroidery machine you have. There are a number of combo sewing and embroidery machines, and as well as I'll be on the 550E today, but the Memory Craft 550E or the 550 ELE, pretty much the same machine. So regardless of what machine you have, all these little tips and tricks that I'll share with you will apply with your machine. Oh, hello, my sister Deb is here. Hello. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. My name is Michael Smith, the National Education Manager of Janome Canada, and I am back here from my very snowy palatial estate here in Collingwood, Ontario, Canada, about 2 hours north of Toronto, to share with you, again, some little tips and tricks about our embroidery for National Embroidery Month. So let me flip around, as always. Again, I sound like a broken record. So much to share. So yes, here is the fabulous, ooh, let's wake it up. Yes, the fabulous Janome. This is the Memory Craft 550E standalone embroidery machine. The newer model is the 550 ELE limited edition, which is basically the same machine except for the ELE. Now it does come with a USB stick of some bonus designs, but the main difference in the machine itself, here on the 550E, you see there's my direct connect port that would connect to my computer. On the 550 ELE, this port no longer exists. We can only transfer designs with the USB stick. That's the only physical difference between the ELE and the 550E machine. Again, the ELE comes with the AcuStitch software, which I'll mention in just a minute, and the ELE limited edition machine also comes with a bonus USB stick of, I think it's 28 or 30 new designs. So other than that, it's the same machine. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Now, again, all these little tips and tricks for embroidery, regardless of your machine. Now, your instruction manual based on your machine, is going to say what sort of care and maintenance you may need towards the back of the machine. Here on my 550E, I've got a little marker here so I can see exactly. It's got several pages on what we can do to clean and maintain oil our machine. Now, again, if your machine manual does not include specific instructions like that, then we generally say, don't do it. You take your machine to your fabulous authorized Janome service technician, and they will clean and maintain your machine. But something that you can do in the meanwhile as a little tip that will certainly help. Now, you can go, a lot of the things I'm going to talk about here, you can go back to our Janome Life blog. No matter where you are in the world, you can access our Janome Life blog. You type in Janome Life blog in your browser, and you'll find lots of information about machine maintenance. And again, Janome's YouTube, Janome America's YouTube, Janome Canada's, our Janome HQ YouTube. Lots of videos, tips and tricks. Again, cleaning out your bobbin area. This is definitely going to help you with the results of your machine, keep your machine quieter, performing better, less thread breakage. So you get in there with your little brush included with the machine. But what I love doing is you take your t-shirt rags, we all love making t-shirt quilts. You take the sleeves and the cutoffs and you run this around and get rid of all that lint. It's helpful, again, the t-shirt rags, especially if they've been washed, that it's lint-free, basically. You don't want to use a tissue or a paper towel in there. So we definitely want to keep those clean, that area clean, boom. So this t-shirt rag. Now also included with our machine is this little vial. It says cleaner, but many times I see on social media, people say, oh, is this oil? Do I oil my machine? Well, it's cleaner. It's specifically paraffin distillate. And you can get this once this is empty. You get a full one with your machine. Once it's empty, you can get it from your Janome dealer. It's called paraffin distillate. And it is a cleaner for our bobbin area and our bobbin holders. So we just put like a little drop here, a couple of little drops on the t-shirt rag. And then we take our bobbin holder. This is the standard one that comes with our machine. Ooh, there, can you see? Janome now is getting very wise. Do you see it says 10 grams? And typically for most machines, there's a little like kind of red dot there. So 10 grams is our standard bobbin holder. And we take our t-shirt rag and we wipe our bobbin holder clean with this cleaner, with that paraffin distillate. We don't want to use any chemicals, any solvents. This is resin. This is not plastic. It's a special resin. So we don't want to like do anything to dissolve that. And also with the paraffin distillate, again, we can get in here and wipe out our bobbin area so it's nice and clean. So this little tip, very good to do regularly, but down here in the bobbin area, right here, in between, again, we take out our bobbin holder, and then right down here is this little wick. Some people think it is lint, and they pull it out with tweezers, but it's actually felt. So what you can do, again, maybe about every month or so, it depends how frequently you use your machine, but in between service visits to your Janome dealer, your service technician, you can put 1 drop of oil, and I emphasize 1 drop of oil, on that little felt wick, and it's going to bring oil down into the bobbin area. We don't want to oversaturate it, just 1 little drop, and that's going to help keep the machine a little quieter, and again, you'll have way less issue by keeping this bobbin area clean. And again, a little bit of oil there will just help keep it a little quieter, not so much, chattering, less thread breakage. Everything will definitely help. So when we get down into, again, the bobbin area, and we've got our standard bobbin holder, again, that says 10 grams. Now, do you know, now it is in your instruction manual, but just to review, we can use this standard bobbin holder with our embroidery when we're using our Janome bobbin thread or our Janome pre-wound bobbins here. There's black and there's white. It's a 60 weight thread, 2-ply thread. So it's a little bit finer because of it's only 2-ply as opposed to 3-ply. So these you can get from your Janome dealer. And again, our Janome J bobbins have that little bit of resin in it, the little bit of rubberized compound in it, which will also help keep your bobbin area quieter, your machine less chattering. It will stitch out more evenly because the bobbin's not jumping up and down. We want to make sure, again, the thread is a P shape here. P for perfect stitches, for precision. So again, the 10-gram bobbin holder with the either pre-wounds or we can get Janome bobbin thread. Your machine either maybe came with, the embroidery machines either come with a little spool like this or a larger cone. You can get this bobbin thread, Janome bobbin thread, separately as well. It often comes with the embroidery machine, but you can get this separately. And then you can use the pre-wounds, or again, I wind my own and I keep a bobbin holder, and I specifically laid it. There's my 60 weight thread, and then I've got my 90 weight thread in here, black and white. Or we keep all of our bobbins in the fabulous Janome Bobbin Saver. There's room for 66 regular bobbins in the Bobbin Saver, but it'll even accommodate the larger bobbins for the long arm quilting machine. But by this way, by using that Janome bobbin weight thread, and we can wind our own bobbins, we can, again, just keep that I'm running out of room already. We can just keep that regular 10-gram bobbin holder in our machine. We don't have to switch it out. If we're going to use other non-brand Janome bobbin thread, then that's where we like using our 20-gram bobbin holder. And again, now the bobbin holders come printed with 20 grams. It's a higher tension to pull those needle threads to the back so we don't see them on the top side. We don't want to see the bobbin thread on the top side. So the 20-gram bobbin holder often has a little yellow dot. So we call this the embroidery bobbin holder. And again, it'll pull those needle threads to the back side. We're typically not seeing the back of embroidery. We just see the beautiful front side here. We don't want to see any bobbin thread up here. So that's why we recommend that higher tension bobbin holder with non-Janome thread, non-Janome bobbin thread. We use that 20-gram holder, and again, you see that it pulls my thread to the back. I see a lot of red in here. I used my standard white bobbin thread, but then it pulls that red thread, in this case, to the back, because we're typically not going to see this. This is a quilt label. I'm going to then stitch on hand applique to my quilt. You're not going to see the backside. So that is their typical bobbin holder. But did you know Janome has yet another bobbin holder as a little tip, another tip? We can get a separate bobbin holder that has a little blue dot, and it's now printed. It'll say 8 grams in the bobbin basket. And it looks like this. It is for free motion quilting, hand look quilt stitch on the sewing machine, but we can still use this low tension bobbin holder, 8 grams of tension, again, less tension on it than our standard bobbin holder. We use that low tension bobbin holder when we're doing things like, AcuFil quilting. Now, again, you go to our Janome Life blog, you go to Janome America's YouTube, Janome HQ YouTube, back to Janome Sewing Machines, scroll back to the Facebook feed, search in the videos tab for AcuFil quilting. Look at all this beautiful stippling. It's quilting in the hoop with our embroidery machine. Now, we can do this in all embroidery machines except for Skyline S9 and the 9850. We can't do AcuFil quilting for those machines, but 500E, 500 or 550E, 550 ELE, the 15,000, the 12,000 previously, even previously the 11,000, Continental CM17, of course. We quilted all this fabric, then cut it up and made this garment. Or again, very quickly for AcuFil quilting, it's quilting in the hoop. So yes, we can do all this stippling here, or we can just do individual like blocks, individual shapes here, like this beautiful butterfly. And again, go back to previous Janome Life blogs. Now for our 500E, 550E, 550 ELE, there's this beautiful AcuFil quilting kit. I've shown it on previous lives, so that's why I'm going very quickly here on just what is available from your Janome dealer to help you get more from your embroidery machine. You basically turn your embroidery machine into a long arm quilting machine. Now this kit here for AcuFil quilting is again for the 450E, for the 500E, 550E, 550 ELE, and it's got a large magnetic hoop, big magnetic clamps, and we're going to clamp our quilt sandwich over the hoop and do all the quilting in between. It works out so beautifully. So again, double check with your Janome dealer for AcuFil quilting, and that's when we would use that blue dot bobbin holder with that lower tension, because we don't want to see those needle threads on the backside when we're doing AcuFil quilting. So that's when we'll use that low tension. Now our 550E and a number of our machines come with needles. Now Oregon is the company that actually produces Janome needles. So when you run out of your organ needles, you can get your Janome needles. Now, typically the ones we're going to be using in our embroidery machines, you know, in our instruction manual, oh yes, we say our blue tip needle, size 11. It's got a smaller eye and a smaller, slightly rounded point. So it's almost like a ballpoint needle. So the blue tip size 11 needle is the standard needle for embroidery. But you know, when we have thicker layers, more layers of stabilizer, I love using the red tip size 14, larger shaft, larger eye. We can accommodate and go through thicker layers. And even on our embroidery machines here, oh yes, we can use that size 14 purple tip needle with the cobra head, that flared cobra head, that'll help separate the fibers of the fabric so our needle threads and bobbin threads intersect more readily. So any of our kind of standard colored Janome needles we can use in our embroidery machines, no problem. Here is the fabulous Janome needle guide. It's on our janome.com website, janome.ca. Printed out, it goes through the anatomy of a needle and when. These are our three standard, again, colored. The blue tip needle size 11 is the standard embroidery needle, but again, we can totally use the size 14 red tip or even size 14 purple tip. So that works out great. So you can grab that from janome.ca or janome.com. So any kind of our standard, again, organ needles or Janome needles work great. Now, yes, we can use other brands, good quality brands of needles in our machines, but you know, our needle threaders may not work with those other brands of machines because maybe the eye of that needle is in the wrong spot for the little hook that's in our needle threader. So this is where, boom, as your other little tip, your Janome manual needle threader comes in a blister pack from your Janome dealer. Again, one part of the needle threader here holds your needle. So when you have to switch out your needle, and that's definitely another tip, when in doubt, throw it out. If you can't remember the last time you changed your needle, it's probably time to change it. We generally recommend after every 8 hours of regular sewing. For me, depending on my project, I like to just switch it out after every big embroidery, or if you've got a really heavy, dense design, I wouldn't take any chances, just throw the needle away. You will eventually hear it. It sounds like a machine gun punching through your fabric. If you're getting a lot of thread breakage, then you know, throw away your needle. If you're getting lots of thread breakage, maybe you need a larger eye needle. That's where that size 14 needle comes into play. But again, this needle threader holds your needle in place. And then on the other side here, there's a little wire. It's hard to demo on camera since it's so fiddly, but there you see, you run this down the shaft of the needle, and then that little wire pokes out, and that'll push your thread through the eye of the needle. So this Janome manual needle threader, again, if you're using another brand of needle, maybe the eye is not in the right spot. So nothing's wrong with your needle threader. It's just the eye is not lined up with the needle threader for your Janome needles. So manually use this. If you're using a very fine, delicate thread, again, sometimes those are a little hard with the needle threader, but the manual needle threader works great as well. A link for those little boxes you're using for your needle. Oh yes, these cute little, they are in the Inspire tab of janome.com, janome.ca. You click Inspire, then you click Projects. In the search box, put in felt, and it starts coming up, or a basket, and it starts coming up. And you will find these in there indeed. They're really, really cute. So again, to thread your machine. Oh, now speaking of thread, yes, spool stands. I absolutely love them. There's a 2 spool and a 5 spool in a box like this, and they will fit. Now, if you have a Continental CM17, you have your own spool stand that attaches to the back of the machine. Now, you'll see here, I haven't even attached it. I just put it over the handle. I do this on my 15,000 as well, and it just sits there beautifully. Now, there are screw holes in the back of the machine, and the screws are included in the back of your machine. if it will accept this thread stand. So it can screw in, but again, I just clip it over the handle and no problem. And why I love these spool stands, particularly when we get into some of these finicky threads, as I call them. This is like mylar. It's not even real thread. It's like plastic. This mylar, or again, metallic threads, any of these difficult threads, I love using the thread stands with that. Also, if we want to use big cones, you know, the thread stands come with these cone adapters. So these are great to have. Again, if I want, there's a close-up of the cone adapters. We have the same for our sergers. You can get them in a blister pack if need be. But again, great big cones of thread. Or again, with these more finicky threads, you have this telescoping thread mast here, So there's more room for the thread to uncurl and unwind before it gets down into the tension. You will get way less thread breakage this way as well. Also, turn your machine down, slow the machine down, even turn it into quiet mode to slow it down when you're using these more finicky threads, metallic threads in particular, or again, this mylar. Now you'll see the way I have here, all the spool stands come with the big spool caps. So what I love doing is inverting it like a little shelf, because the problem is when you've had the jam, have you ever had, you're sewing along and my bobbin holder here, you know, spins out of place, it jams, it spins out of place, and oh no, there's a big problem. It's not your machine. It's probably the thread has wrapped around the spool pin. So here's the horizontal spool pin of our machine. But again, I like doing these finicky threads vertically, the way the thread comes off the spool. And again, there's just more distance for this thread to uncurl and unwind, just to relax a little. So I love to invert this little spool cap. Again, it creates like a little shelf. I'm completely bypassing the spool pin. It's not exposed at all. If I do cap it, just as I did with that little guy over there, I just cap it like that and boom, using the correct spool cap. It makes all the difference in the world. Thread net as well, that comes with the spool stands. We wrap our thread net around the spool. Sometimes there's so much thread on these spools that as we start stitching, like it just totally puddles around the bottom of the spool. So by using this thread net over the spool and you just tuck it in under the spool, then that way it'll stop that thread from spooling underneath. It's not going to wrap around the spool pin. That's why your machine jams. It's the twist of the thread and it's that spool pin. So make sure you use the correct spool cap to bypass it. Now here in my horizontal, and another advantage to the spool stands, of course, well, I have 5 colors loaded up here. Now with my horizontal thread stand here, there's number 6. Now we also have the auxiliary spool pin that would go in this little hole here when we're using our thread stand. That does come with a little guide, so our thread that's over here can go through this little guide. But, you know, ideally we can have up to 7 spools of thread going loaded, preloaded, and then we can just switch them out as we need. So that's the advantage of the spool stands. You can change your threads really quickly. But here on the horizontal spool, then using the correct spool cap, again, for this mini king cone, I can use this smaller medium size spool cap. We just need it to be bigger than the top of the spool. I don't have to worry about the size of the spool down here. I worry about the top of the spool there. So these, again, mini king cones, so long as it fits over the top of the spool, that's fine. Now, I'll sometimes see this little guy is our special spool cap. It comes with most machines. If not, you can get this from in a blister pack. I see that, you know, it wants to go like that, but that really doesn't fit. So I see people put it like this, almost like a little crown. But no, it's going to get caught. It's really designed to go in like, whoops, and I knew I would drop it. It's designed to go. I have injured my fingers, so that's why it's hard for me to dexterity sometimes. I have several cuts on my hands. So there. So it goes down in the spool. That's how the special spool cap is supposed to be used. So it will work beautifully. So if you find, oh yeah, your cone of thread, your spool of thread is too long, and sometimes people have to invert the spool cap that way, well, that'll kind of work, but it's really meant, that special spool cap is meant to go that way, and then it'll fit on this horizontal thread guide there. So that'll work beautifully. So just as a little tip there, your spool stands definitely make a big difference. Again, when I mentioned about jamming of your machine, when we go back to put in this bobbin holder, do you see that little black thumb? Well, this goes behind the metal finger that's down here in the machine, and our arrows on the bobbin holders line up beautifully when we do that. Now, we need to make sure, again, that that black thumb is behind that metal finger and that it lays flat. I like to run my finger around so I know that's flat. That is locked into place. So nothing is going to happen to that. Now, when we put our needle plate back on, you see my screws are out here dancing around. Well, let's remember we've got our fabulous Janome pin pal here. This is a great spot to keep those screws so we don't lose them, as well as all of our little tools here. Definitely a good tip and trick. And yes, we can use that magnetic pin pal next to our embroidery machine here. It's not going to cause any trouble. Again, years ago, it was an issue when we had computerized machines and we couldn't have magnets around them. But now, again, if your machine's anywhere in the last, 15, 20 years, those computer components are so well secured, we don't need to worry about, again, I just keep my pin pal right here. We don't need to worry about the magnetic capabilities at all. So that is very easy. So yes, then let's get into, time is going by very, very fast. So when we talk about, another little tip then that I will share, when people do these bigger, one thing that comes up all the time, especially with our 550E and ELE, is when they're doing the rope bowls and they want to do the embroidery, they have thicker projects. Like this guy, for example. This is one of the little monsters that, again, comes built into the 550 and 550 ELE. Well, the monster, just as he is very cute. We've done a million of these. They're so adorable, so addictive. But in this case, I wanted to add some hair. But, this thicker layer, this didn't really want to go under the foot here of our embroidery hood, because the foot just kind of hovers over. It doesn't move. It just hovers over the fabric. Or again, when we're doing like rope bowls, or here's some flex foam for our tote bags, for example. So let's say we have thicker layers. And again, by the time we get this in our hoop, and we can't always get enough clearance with our embroidery foot. So what we can do for our, again, this would be for the 550E, 550 ELE, 500E. In some of our other machines, combo machines, we can raise the height of our foot. In the 550 and 550 ELE, we can't. We use the convertible free motion quilting foot set for high shank 9mm, 7mm machines. And what we do is, we put, it comes with a open toe and a closed toe and a clear view foot. I put the closed toe on. And the cool thing is, when we remove this foot, this is what can allow us, it's a good like workaround to how to raise our foot, because we can't adjust it in the settings of our machine. But when I take this foot off, and then I just clamp this around, we're trying to do this very quickly. We just clamp this around. So then this way, when I drop my foot, and again, I'd have my project all hooped up. But when I drop the foot there is a screw here on that foot holder. Ooh, and I'll just drop my camera a little bit. Whoops. No, drop. So there is a little screw, and then we can turn that screw to raise and lower our foot. So we don't want it too high, but in this case, like it's kind of dragging against my project here. Again, think of those rope bowls that everybody wants to embroider. So I can drop the foot if I need to, but oh boy, that's really going to drag. So instead, I can turn the screw, and that is condensing the screw, and that's raising the foot. So again, in this project of the monster with his thicker hair of the yarn, then this is how I was able to do it. And then again, we can raise up the foot however much we need. We want it to hover over our fabric. We don't want to go too high. If it's up too high and you get thread breakage, it's probably your foot is too high. Conversely, if the embroidery foot is too low and it's dragging, you're also going to get thread breakage. So the foot needs to be at the correct height. So this convertible free motion quilting foot set for high shank machines will work for your 500E, 550E, 550 ELE. Now I mentioned very quickly, time is my enemy. Oh, things like the AcuStitch software. Again, go back to previous lives in Janome Life blog. AcuStitch, where we can stitch in shapes now, like the word love, using decorative stitches that are built into the program, where basically all of this would normally be done on the sewing machine, but now we can do it in the embroidery machine. And again, things like, oh, we could stitch in a circle with our circular sewing attachment, but here it's all done perfectly with the AcuStitch software. Now it comes with the 550 ELE, but it comes now available separately for all Janome embroidery machines. All of them can use them. So that is great. Also, when everybody talks about thread, well, we can use basically any thread, but did you know Janome has these fabulous 1, 2, and 3 embroidery thread when you go into your Janome embroidery machine, regardless of the model. All of the thread numbers here, all of the colors are in your embroidery machine. They are all digitized with the Janome palette of thread colors. So here I have mine all clipped together. So there's 3 color palettes. You can get these from your Janome dealer. It makes selecting colors so easy. But if not, again, oh, maybe your Janome dealer has like some fabulous, these are these major neon bright from Madeira, or how about some multicolor threads? This is the poly neon multicolor. And yes, you can even use cotton threads. This is again some Madeira katana thread, 100% cotton, multicolor. Really have some fun effects, as I did here. Really have some fun effects with your various threads. You can use any thread in your Janome embroidery machine. I would make sure it's good quality thread. Again, see what your Janome dealer has. There's lots available. And again, you'll get lots less thread breakage with that spool stand in particular. Keeping your bobbin area clean, using your Janome bobbin thread will definitely help. And again, your Janome needles in particular, multiple sizes. Oh, and then one last little tip. There's so much I need to share. Maybe I'll have to do a second presentation. Have you ever had where you save every little scrap of stabilizer? I just have my little 5.5 by 5.5, the SQ14B hoop, for example, just a little glue stick to glue your little bits of stabilizer together is enough for you to hoop it in there. It doesn't gum up your needle. I haven't had any trouble doing that. For a small little project like that, it's a great way just to use up your stabilizer and piece it together if need be. Now, sometimes people say, oh, you know, when I'm hooping my fabric and I get a little bit of slippage, these, have you ever noticed these with your Janome machine? They don't come with all of the machines, but they came with my 550E. They're also available in this little card separately. You just peel off these little rubbery strips and they go into their little embroidery sticky strips. There's a bulletin on the Janome Global site about them. And you just stick them on the inner hoop and you can put them in all four sides. And especially if you're using some lightweight fabric, really slippery, some chiffon, for example, then this will just help fill in the gap. So when you hoop your fabric and your stabilizer, it just helps fill in the gap a little bit there so your fabric doesn't slip around as much. So that's very important. Again, so many things that we could do. Again, I'll just have to do another presentation. I had planned to show more, but as usual, the time is racing by. So, oh, let me flip around. And again, you can always go back and review this presentation and pick up more little tips and tricks of what I said. Or again, check out our Janome Life blog. Check out previous lives back on the Janome Sewing Machines Facebook page in Janome Canada. We're streaming live there too. And our respective YouTube channel, Janome America and Janome HQ, Janome Canada's YouTube. So thank you everyone so much for joining me today. This is fabulous. Again, I'll have to come back and do more. There's always so much you can do with your Janome embroidery machine. Just the sky's the limit. So happy National Embroidery Month, and I will see you again tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.